the really interesting thing is that her having armpit hair did not bother her at all. Like, I don't even think she thought about it. But for some reason, it bothered the shit out of me. I literally could not stop thinking about it. And it was like, I realized at that point that this had nothing to do with her. This was something that was stuck inside of me. Welcome to the Phoenix Perspective Podcast, a show for women over 30 rebuilding their lives after loss and major life changes. I'm your host, Corey Ray Kovacs, a registered nurse, storyteller, and a woman who knows a thing or two about rebuilding a life. Each week, we explore women's health, personal growth, and spirituality through honest conversations with experts, fascinating women, and lessons from my own messy journey. You'll find episodes that help you to understand what you're going through, trust yourself again, and create a beautiful, joy-filled life from here. So wherever you are on your journey, tune in and let's rise together. Welcome to today's episode of the Phoenix Perspective Podcast. I am Corey Ray Kovacs, your host, and I'm really happy you're here today. I'm talking about something kind of weird. Believe it or not, I tried something so ridiculous. I did this little experiment that was completely off the wall. And in my world, feels very outrageous. It feels very taboo, if you would say. So this summer, I decided to grow out my armpit hair. I know of all of the things that I could make a podcast episode about, this probably wasn't at the top of your list of what you wanted to talk about today. But this is what we're talking about. But before you decide to click away, and perhaps you think that I'm going to have a dissertation on whether or not women should shave or not, that's not what this episode is about. This is a story about freedom. And it's about the invisible rules that we inherit, the ones that we don't realize are actually there. And this episode is really about asking ourselves, is this behavior actually my choice? Or have I just been following a script that someone else handed to me? And, here at the Phoenix Perspective Podcast, those are the kinds of conversations I want to have about creating an intentional life, especially after these big challenges that we have. We really have an opportunity to create the life that feels in alignment for us and where we are in this season. So I'm going to use this experiment about growing out my armpit hair to talk about what it is to feel and experience freedom. So this whole experiment started with my daughter, with Asen. And if you don't know, Asen is 12 now. And last year, when she was 11, she actually asked for me to teach her how to shave. I was 10 when I learned. And so I thought that 11 was an appropriate age. I wanted her to prompt that. It wasn't going to be something that I was going to put on her. I wanted her to come to me when she was ready to do that kind of grooming, right? So, I thought it was a great age for her to start learning. And so I taught her how to shave her legs. I taught her how to shave her armpits and, buy her own razor and all things. And, it was kind of a moment for me as a mom, having a daughter, and it was kind of like a milestone moment. And God, she would probably be like, Mom, if she heard me talking about this. If you're another mom, you get it, right? It's a milestone, and it feels good. And to be able to kind of teach that next, the next generation, and getting to reminisce about the things that you learned, and then also how you want to do it differently, or the things that you really liked about it, growing up. And honestly, I really liked how my mom handled it. And in terms of the age and introduction to that. So I wanted to bring that similar experience to my daughter. And so I showed her, and it was no big deal. And then she maybe shaved a couple of times, and it was never forced. It was never an expectation. And somewhere around there is when we went from having just like a couple armpit hairs to actually having armpit hair. And that's great. That's her body's doing what her body was supposed to do. And I had noticed that she had shaved maybe once or twice, and then she just didn't shave anymore. And it was fine. I totally didn't even really think about it until we got to wrestling season last winter. If you know anything about wrestling, first off, it's predominantly a male sport. And in middle school and high school, it's mostly boys. And it's starting to get a resurgence, though. And they made it co-ed. But girls have really started to join the sport. And in middle school, they participate. They do co-ed matches. So she does fight other girls. She has matches with other girls, but she also wrestles with the boys. And that's fine. It's totally fine. But the uniforms they have to wear, they're called singlets, and they are like leotards with shorts, basically. So they're sleeveless, right? And there's really like nowhere to hide your armpits when you're in a singlet. And I remember watching her, and there was a day I remember it was one of the tournaments that she was at, and I had realized how much armpit hair she had. And I'm like really fixated on it. And I was starting to have feelings about it. If you have a kid and you see them doing something or engaging in something that could be embarrassing for them, or could maybe create an opportunity for teasing or being made fun of, like, that feeling? If you have a kid, like, do you know that feeling? That's what I was having. I was having this feeling, and I just kept having these thoughts that oh my gosh, the boys are going to bully her. They're going to make fun of her for having armpit hair. The girls are going to tease her, or even the parents or the coaches. Somebody's going to say something to her. And I almost wanted to say something to her because I wanted to protect her from this perceived bullying, right? That I had made up in my entire head that she was going to get bullied because she had armpit hair, right? And it turns out nobody did. At least not that I know of. Nobody teased her about it. Nobody said anything. She didn't say anything to me, and I didn't notice anything. But nobody was pointing. Nobody's laughing. Like, nobody's making a big deal about this. And the really interesting thing is that her having armpit hair did not bother her at all. Like, I don't even think she thought about it. But for some reason, it bothered the shit out of me. I literally could not stop thinking about it. Anytime I saw her with her armpits and her like very normal body thing. And it was like, oh, I realized at that point that this had nothing to do with her. This was something that was stuck inside of me. There was something I was hung up on, and I don't tolerate that anymore. If I've got something that I'm hung up on and it just keeps spinning like a mouse on a wheel inside my head, I am at the point in self-awareness that I know that trigger is trying to point something out in me. And so it was time to kind of face the music a little. I needed to face myself and figure out what the fuck was happening inside of me that was triggering me so badly about something that is very normal on a body, especially a body that's going through puberty, right? And her, like, as a girl, like, I had some shit that I needed to deal with. I knew in my mind logically that there was nothing wrong with it. It's just hair. And I just couldn't figure out why I was having such a strong reaction. When I started kind of pulling on that thread, I realized that this whole idea of body hair, particularly like women, body hair on women, was not a new it was not a new thing for me. I actually have been unpacking my beliefs around body hair for a very long time. I think when I was younger, I had some really big challenges with it. And as I grew up, I continued to hold a lot of beliefs inside of me about women's body hair and about my body hair. I think I had been intentionally trying to unpack this idea for quite some time, but this part I just hadn't got to yet until now. See, when I was growing up, well, first off, okay, if you watch the show on YouTube, right? I have like dark hair. This is like my natural hair color on the back, not the pink. This part's bleach, okay? But this is like my natural hair color, and so I have dark hair. I also have polycystic ovarian syndrome or polyendocrine metabolic ovarian syndrome is what it's now called, PMOS. And one of the things that happens with that condition is you grow dark hair, oftentimes body hair in other places, kind of like what men do. And so I've had dark hair on my lip, and sometimes I grow hair on my chin and on my belly, and I have kind of darker thick hair on my legs. And so I've known that I've had darker, thicker hair on my body since I went through puberty. And when I was growing up, that was a big deal. I remember I had one of my first boyfriends I was in like seventh grade, eighth grade, maybe. And I came to school in shorts, and he had put his hand on my leg, which I'm like, oh my God, I can't even imagine that happening days. And now, okay. But he put his hand on my leg at school in the lunchroom. And I guess I hadn't shaved. And he touched my leg and he's like, ew, you didn't shave. He like actually like recoiled, pulled his hand back. And I don't know why that stupid comment from that stupid boy stuck with me. But holy shit, that became like that was like a core memory for me. Like that was a core memory. I was like, oh my gosh, boys think leg hair is gross. So I became, after that point, obsessed with shaving. I never left the house without shaving my legs. And probably my armpits would fall under that category as well. But I did. Or I wouldn't wear shorts. Like if I hadn't shaved, I wouldn't wear shorts. So I learned pretty quickly that from that experience, right? That was a defining experience that told me that if I want to be accepted by my boyfriend and by other people, I better shave my body. How fascinating is that? And then when I became sexually active, right? So as I got older and, I became sexually active in my late teens and early 20s, the men I dated, which is funny, it was the same kid. Oh my gosh. Would comment on my pubic hair, right? They had opinions about my pubic hair and what that looked like as well. They would tell me what they prefer. Oh, I prefer a girl to be shaved. Oh, it's just nicer to look at. And, they weren't, I would say like they probably weren't like mean about it. But remember, I already have this core memory of, boys don't like hair. And then to also have these men or young men at that point who are also giving opinions about the hair on my body, that just like really solidified it. And the thing is that those comments, right? Those were just like my experience, but they really don't exist in isolation. They get reinforced everywhere. I mean, look at every single magazine cover. Look at commercials and movies and music videos and everywhere that we consume media, right? They show women without body hair. No armpit hair, even no hair like on their arms, no hair on their legs, no hair like on their inner thighs. And then, you get into the pornography spaces, and then there's like a lot of spaces that don't have hair there either, right? And so all of these things, I think, contributed to this idea that women just are not supposed to have body hair. And that if you have body hair, you better do everything that you can to get rid of it. And that became my truth. That became an expectation within me of how I was supposed to live my life. And I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one. A lot of us feel that way. And maybe we don't even realize it. We don't even realize the cage that we're living in that has been created by the world that we live around, right? And whether it was an intentional thing or not, this is just what has happened. But over the last several years, I've been doing a lot of work to reconnect with my body, to be intentional with how I live my life. And as I've been learning about my menstrual cycle and learning about my body and just, kind of giving myself a little bit more space to exist, I've been taking a look at the beliefs that I have within myself that drive the behaviors that I continue to do. I think a part of that has been parenting. That's why, I brought Asen up in the beginning of this conversation, is because the parenting aspect and every milestone that her and I go through as she gets older causes me to take a look at how I'm living my life. And so this piece has really brought about a sense of curiosity for me. And I started to kind of unravel those beliefs. At first, it started with my legs. Okay. So during my period, I would not shave my legs. It was kind of like an honoring of myself. It was giving myself permission. Like if there was no other time in the month that I was going to give myself permission to just exist, I was going to give it to me during my bleed. And that helped me heal something. It really did. I started to have a little bit more lax space because I had such a tight space around my shaving. Like I was really obsessed with it. It was crazy, almost to a point where I just I didn't want people to see me with unshaved legs. And so me not shaving during my period was like a big deal to me. For you, maybe there's a different space where that is, and that's totally cool. I just want to try to emphasize that how where I was on that spectrum. And so during my period, during whether it was in the summer or in the winter or whatever, I just wouldn't shave my legs. And it was curious because nobody cared. Dan didn't care, which, he's the one who's touching my legs or being around me, right? I really didn't care too much. Like I said, I found myself relaxing and nobody around me cared. Just nobody cared. World kept spinning and I was still just me. But I realized at one point that with this experience that I had with Asen over the winter, that I still had a sticking point, and it was with my armpits. For some reason, armpit hair felt different. Being fully transparent here, there would be times when I would see a woman who had grown out her armpit hair, and I would have feelings about it. It's like my brain would zero in on it and be like, oh, she didn't shave her armpits, right? And I'm not even sure I would like judge it, but boy, did my brain find it. It would always find it, zero in on it like a freaking missile. And I don't think that I thought consciously that it was disgusting. As a matter of fact, I think really what it was, as I was reflecting on this before I made um, this episode, it was really, I think it was about envy. Something I talk about on the podcast a lot is a book called Atlas of the Heart from Brene Brown. If you've not read that book, please go read it. It's such an amazing book. But Brene takes the time to explain the nuances of emotions and where they come from and how they apply to us. And I mean, there's like 80 something emotions that she names in that book. And the biggest piece that I took from that book was about jealousy and envy. And she talked about envy in this way that I had never processed it before. And I realized that when I would see a woman who hadn't shaved her armpits, I was envious of her because she was free from the cage that society has placed upon women in terms of expectations of body hair grooming. And I was not. I still felt like I had to adhere to those rules that had been placed upon us, but she was outside of that. She didn't care. And so she just did. She just existed. She just lived her life, letting her body be what her body was. And when I would see that representation of her freedom, it would trigger me in such a visceral way that I would just like not be able to stop thinking about it. And I think I was envious of her because I felt like she had something that I could not have, that I desperately wanted. I wanted to feel free. I wanted to be able to say that I don't give a shit about what people think about me. I'm just going to live my life. But yet here I was obsessed with freaking shaving. And therefore I was not free. I had not yet given permission to myself to just exist in a body that has armpit hair. And when I had that realization, finally had that realization, I was like, okay, I've got to do an experiment. You know, for a long time, I felt like my body was working against me because of years of irregular cycles with polycystic ovarian syndrome. My energy, emotions, and symptoms felt really unpredictable. But one of the things that truly changed my relationship with myself was starting to track my cycles consistently with the Cycles Journal. Just spending 5 minutes a day with my cycles journal helped me to realize these patterns aren't random. They are cyclical, like me. It's helped me to create a roadmap of self-care so I could build deeper self-trust and a more intentional way of living in a way that fits my busy schedule as a mom, farmer, and business owner. And what I love most about the Cycles Journal is that it's inclusive for anyone wanting to understand and follow their inner rhythms. Whether you're actively cycling, perimenopausal, postmenopausal, or simply wanting to get to know yourself more. If you want to try out the Cycles Journal, you can use my code Sacred Phoenix for 10% off. Just click the link in the episode description to get your copy today. Now, let's get back to the show. So that was at the end of May this year. I had shaved before my period, right? As I usually do. I shave like sometime in my luteal phase, and then I don't shave again until after my bleed is done. And so when my bleed was done in May, I did not shave my armpits. I probably shaved my legs, probably shaved my pubic hair, but I did not shave my armpits. And that was weird. It felt weird. But I made a choice. I made an active decision that I was going to grow out my armpit hair over the summer. And even just making that decision, I hadn't even done it yet, right? But even just making that decision freaked me the fuck out. I was like, oh my God, I can't even believe I'm doing this. But I was. It's just like, I'm going to grow my armpit hair over the summer. I was curious. I was curious about what this was going to be like. But finally, doing it really helped me to see how much I needed to. And so the experiment began. Of course, the first person I needed to tell about this experiment was Dan, because it was just very different. It was a stray from what my normal grooming habits were. And I felt that I owed it to him to explain what I was doing. It was not permission. It was nothing like that. I just needed to let him know what was up. Right. I felt that was a courtesy. It was a courtesy thing. And I remember telling him that what I was doing, what I was up to, that I was going to grow up my armpit hair over the summer. And he's like, okay. What, he naturally wants to know why I'm doing that. And so I explained to him about the experiment and, all these things. So basically everything I've just told you. And, he just asked me, what was the purpose? Why did I want to do that? And of course he was being curious with me as well. And that's so great. And that's one of the things I love about him is he like knows that I do these experiments for personal growth. Once I had that conversation with him, then I was like, okay, now I've told somebody. Now I'm committed. Now I'm committed. So, I could have made this experiment a lot easier on me if I had done it in December, right? Because I would have just been wearing long sleeve clothes and nobody would have seen, right? No, I had to decide to do it in the summertime when we're wearing bathing suits and tank tops. But honestly, I think that that was actually the best time that I needed to have this experiment because I needed to be out in public. I think there was a piece of that for me, and I needed to be wearing the sundresses and the tank tops and the bathing suits and be out and about in my community. I was a little nervous. Honestly, I didn't really give a shit about what the men thought. To be honest, I'm not in the market, right? I'm not looking for another partner right now and all of that. So it's, I didn't give a shit if men thought it was gross or not because I could care less. I couldn't care less about what they think. But it was honestly the women. I was nervous about what the women in my community, like my mom friends and women at the pool, what they were going to think of. I thought that was really interesting. Because I work in the, kind of women's spaces, I, wondered, would they see me as unprofessional or would they see me as a hippie or dirty or lazy or I don't know. But really those stories were all just like things my brain was making up. And I had no real proof that that's what the experience was going to be. Just like I had no proof that Asen was going to get bullied. I had no proof that I was going to get, judged for it either. Except for the fact that I feel like I have been doing that. And so I was maybe in my mind, kind of projecting a little bit because I had been obsessed with it. And the thing is that I can acknowledge here is that it is different, right? Most women shave their armpits in the United States. In our Western culture, that is a common grooming standard practice. Like that's a common grooming practice. But it is not like that everywhere in the world. It's just like mostly like that here. So I get that, women with armpit hair is a little bit different outside, in the outside world here. But it doesn't mean that everybody's going to be automatically judging me. And so I had to kind of get through that. I think the biggest challenge for me with this experiment was going to the pool. Yeah, going to the pool was challenging. Like after about a month, the first when the pool opened at the end of May, it wasn't that big a deal. But as we got to like the end of June, and it had been over a month since I had shaved, and I definitely was having some hair under there that was noticeable, that wasn't just like, oh, I forgot to shave, a few days ago or whatever. No, it was like clearly hair. And at first I noticed that I would kind of hide it a little bit. Like I would want to kind of put my arm up on the chair, like to lounge back, and then I would like pull my arm back down when somebody walked by. Like I know that sounds kind of silly, but I did. I kind of did was a little editing of my body actions. And then when I realized that, I would just come back into my body and just come back and say, hey, it's okay. You're safe. You can just exist, sister, and you're fine. You have armpit hair, so what? And I would like kind of talk myself back through it. And then I would say by mid-July, I was like pretty okay. I was like, whatever, here I am, just being me. And so it really got me thinking. And I really wonder how much we edit ourselves in our actions because of these kind of core beliefs that we have within ourselves. Yeah, yes, about body hair, but about other things too. This idea that like we don't want to draw attention to ourselves, and how many times we edit our actions because somewhere along the way we learned that it's safer to not be seen. And I mean, I got to hand it to you guys. Like I went to the pool and nobody stared. I From what I could see, nobody gave a shit. Like nobody cared. Nobody cared. Nobody came up to me and said, "You disgusting hippie, shave your goddamn armpits." Blah, right? Nobody came up to me and spit at me. I mean, y'all, like seriously, my brain thought that that's what was going to happen. Like it was like, and people were just going to be like not my friend because I didn't shave my armpits. That didn't happen. And then you know what? If somebody had opinions about it, they didn't share it with me. They kept it to themselves, which is perfectly fine. Everybody's allowed to have their opinions. I just thought it was interesting because all of these things that my brain thought was going to happen did not happen. Nobody bullied me. Nobody called me dirty names. Nobody called me out. Nobody freaking took a picture of my armpit hair and posted it on social media and said, ew, look how gross Corey is. Like, that didn't happen. So basically, I got to just live my life. And what's interesting is that now it's just kind of normal. Sometimes you don't need another thing to do. You actually need somewhere you can finally put everything down. If that sounds like something you've been craving, I want to tell you about the Desert Muse Festival. The Desert Muse Festival is a 3-day wellness retreat for women of all ages and identities, a chance to step away from everyday life and make some space for yourself. It's happening September 25th through 27th, 2026 at Hotel Valley Ho in Scottsdale, Arizona. Throughout the weekend, you'll experience opportunities to slow down, connect with the beauty of the Arizona desert, and create meaningful connections with yourself and with others. As a Phoenix Perspective podcast listener, you will receive 25% off your registration. Just go to desertmusefestival.com and use the code Phoenix25Muse. Now, let's get back to the show. Before I did this experiment, armpit hair would drive me insane. It would literally send me into at least an hour-long tizzy of just reeling in my head. And so I've moved from that to this place of, oh, it's just hair. It's just hair. It's not throwing me into a trigger. I'm not being triggered by it. I'm not triggered by my own hair. And I haven't been triggered by, Aizen's hair. I haven't been triggered by anybody's hair. Um, it's just become kind of normal. And, I wonder how many things in our lives stay scary. How many triggers like we get triggered by over and over and over again, simply because we never stayed with them long enough for our nervous systems to realize that we are actually okay, that we are safe. I love this idea that awareness creates a space for choice. And honestly, that's what this experiment did for me. I now have an awareness. I have an acute idea of what it's like to live as a woman who shaves her armpits and what it's like to live as a woman who doesn't shave her armpits. Now, granted, it's been a very small amount of time, but it's been long enough for me to have an idea. And to be honest, I don't know if I like having hairy armpits. I don't know if I have a feeling about it one way or the other. I think that was the point. I don't think I set out to do this experiment to say, do I like hairy armpits? Do I want to have hairy armpits? The goal of this experiment was for me just not to feel so dang triggered with it. And to also maybe set a example for Asen. I don't want Asen to grow up and feel like she has to do something because other people expect it of her or because the patriarchal society expects it from her. And I was playing into that, even though I never said anything to her. I almost did, but I didn't. That I don't want to be a part of that. I do not want to perpetuate that in her. But I also felt too that because I was still having problems with it, that I needed to address those things inside of me in order to pass on that healed space to her. So that's why I did it. Not gonna lie, I'm probably going to shave after this bleed is done. And I don't know. I might grow it out again at some point. I might not. But I will say this, I've reached a point where I can make a choice about my body hair from a genuine decision within me. I don't feel like I have to, but I can if I want to. I think I learn from the contrast. I think a lot of us do. We learn from the contrast of things. It's hard to know what you like if you don't experience something that you don't like. And sometimes you got to go back to something to really know if that's what you enjoy or if, because you're seeing it through a different lens at that point. And so me shaving my armpits, I'm going to shave them again and then decide if I prefer one way or the other. Or maybe it'll become a cyclical thing, like with, the things that I do with my legs, or maybe I'll just choose to grow it out over the summer and then shave in the winter, right? I get to do whatever the fuck I want with my body. And that feels freeing. I no longer feel like I have to conform to this unspoken but very, very present expectation that I'm going to shave my body. There are things that I like about being shaved. I love shaving my legs. The whole thing, the whole process of it. I just did, was it yesterday? I think so. I think it was last night I shaved, or maybe 2 days ago. I don't remember. But I love shaving my legs. I love the ritual of it. I love the way it feels when I get into bed, right? You know that feeling, right? You shave your legs and you get into bed on fresh, clean sheets and you're just like smooth. I love that feeling. It feels so good. And so for me, like I enjoy that. That is pleasure to me. It has nothing to do with any expectation outside of me. It has everything to do with what I want to experience as a human being that is living on this planet. There's, other places that I like to shave and then there's other places that I don't shave and like I get to do that for myself and I get to enjoy those pieces of my life. And now I get to say and choose what is most enjoyable for me when it comes to my armpit hair as well. I love that kind of has joined the ranks of my rebellion in of a sense, but really it's not about just like fuck you patriarchy, blah, feminist, gonna do whatever the fuck I want with my body, right? Y'all know that is not what I'm about, okay? I'm a much more subtle way, a much more internal way of addressing these things because honestly, there are other people to do that. There are other people that are here to make a public statement about things. I am more of an internal place of healing. And if you're here listening to my show and you come in here, then you probably are too. You probably are in a space where you want to heal patriarchy from the inside out. And I love that about you. I love that about you, friend. Um, but I definitely don't think that this is a call for women to stop shaving. Quite frankly, for me, this was about me not giving a shit about whether women shave or not. This is just me addressing patriarchy with it that lives and exists within me. The biases, the beliefs, the things that have kept me stuck. And that's that. I just want to heal it inside of. And then I don't want to pass those beliefs on to my daughter. And if I can, by my doing my little experiment, if I go to the pool and a young girl, right, maybe a teenager, sees me with unshaved armpits, she has this thought, oh, I see this woman over here. She didn't shave. Do I have to shave? Now we're talking here, right? Maybe you're listening and maybe you're asking this question for the first time. Maybe you're like, oh shit, I don't have to shave. I can actually make this choice. Maybe that thought has never even crossed your mind. I mean, I gotta be honest, y'all. I am 41 years old and never up until 6 months ago did I ever consider growing out my armpit hair. Never. Never have I ever. Okay, consider that. But I did it. It's because I asked the question. I said, do I have to do this? Do I really have to do this? Do I even want to do this? Do I even want to shave my armpits? Because I asked that question and I got curious about these beliefs, now I get to make a choice that's mine. So no, this is not about not shaving, right? Or that you're not, saying this whole thing that, oh, if you shave, then you're not a feminist and you're just contributing to the patriarchy. Or if you do shave, then, or if you don't shave, then, you're making a statement. And no, it can be outside of all of that. You can step outside of that craziness and maybe just exist in whatever way that works for you. I just want us to ask the questions that lead to our intentional lives, to lead us to the lives that feel the most authentic to us, to break free of the chains that perhaps have held us trapped for so long, and not speaking our truth and not exploring our creativity or our sexuality or our turn-ons or our joys or our self-expression or whatever the fuck it is that we came here to do. That's what I don't want us to be stuck in a cage that keeps us from living that vibrant life. And if these beliefs about body hair, which seem very random and not very important in the broad scheme of things, maybe they are important though. Maybe they are important to you. They were important to me. And I feel like I have now shed yet another chain that was holding me back from living a life of true authenticity and freedom. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for Asen. I'm so grateful that she, whether she realized it or not, she helped me be free of something that was still holding me prisoner. I don't know if she's grown her hair out on purpose or she's just a kid still. But do you know what makes me feel so good inside? Is that she felt free enough to just be her. To just be her in this home and to be her outside of in a sport that she loves and at the pool and all of these places. Like, I'm so grateful for that. And it is truly a testament to the work that we've done in this home to accept our bodies and that I continue to foster and cultivate here as the emotional leader of our home. We get to accept our bodies as they are and that we get to exist, and that's okay for us to just exist in the bodies that we have, and that we also get to choose how we present those bodies to the world too. One of the biggest things that I think I've learned through this experiment was that if something is triggering me, like if I'm judging somebody or there's something that I'm really focusing in on and honing in on, then there's a good chance that there's a part of me that's asking for love. My puppies just walked in. If you're watching YouTube, you just saw Rosie on the camera. But yeah, I realized that if there's something that's really bugging me or is that I'm feeling really activated, that there really is something that is asking for love and attention and acceptance within myself. Or perhaps there's permission, right? Perhaps there's a chain that I am locked that's like weighing me down, whether it was a chain that I intentionally put there or that was placed upon me from the world that I live in. Maybe triggers are not a bad thing. Maybe triggers are an invitation for us to free ourselves more and more every single day. That was such a huge lesson that I plan on taking, not just in my body hair space, but in everything. And as a woman who has dedicated herself to growth and to sharing those lessons and sharing those growth and growing moments with you, perhaps there's something here for you too. But of course, sister, I cannot leave you without a card reading. Oh my gosh. Today I have Rebecca Campbell's Work Your Light deck. I use it so much. What blessing do we want to bring the Phoenix Perspective community today? Thank you, Spirit, for being Always so generous with your love and your wisdom. Oh, this is a cool card. This is the Pleiades card. It says double mission, channeling and uplifting humanity. There's this idea that our souls come here with a double mission, with this idea that we have personal things that we're growing through. And maybe there's specific experiences that our soul desires to have while we're here in this lifetime, right? Maybe it's experiencing more patience or growing more joy or cultivating compassion, right? And so we have these experiences that we go through in our life that help us develop that as a soul, right? And then there's also this idea that while we are working on these personal quests, these personal missions, we also have a wider mission that is contributing to the growth and development of humanity as a whole. This is a reminder for all of us that when you are doing your work, when you're doing your personal little experiments, your little curiosity moments, your growth points, when you're going through those growth spurts, you're also contributing to the growth of all of us. The world's soul, the human soul, the human collective, right? You don't have to do this whole big old huge thing to heal the planet. You get to heal the planet just by being you. Just by showing up and examining, hey, what is this hang up that I have within myself? What is this trigger that I have? Why is this behavior in my life? And then start unraveling that mess, that ball of yarn, and untangling the mess and taking a look at it and say, you know what? I'm going to choose to live in a more intentional life, and I want to make choices that feel in alignment with who I am now. And when you come from that place, you heal everyone around you. You pass on different traits to your children. You heal the relationship. If you're in a relationship, you heal from past hurts, in your relationship and the person that's relating with you. And so, as silly as it sounds, right? These experiments that we do, whether we're experimenting with growing out our armpit hair, or we're, experimenting with having more patience and compassion at work, or experimenting with a trigger that we have with our partner, right? Whatever the experiments are, these little things that we do, they are not so little because they help us to grow in awareness personally, and they also help heal everyone around us. And that raises the vibrations of the planet with all of us together, because we all show up as more compassionate people. We all show up feeling more whole and more self-acceptance. And when you bring more acceptance to yourself, then you bring more acceptance to those around you. And that is what heals. You're doing it, sister. You're doing the damn thing. Keep at it. I love you, friend. I'm so glad you're a part of this community. Thanks for listening to me for the last hour talk about armpit hair. Oh. No, for real though. I'm proud of you for doing the work. I'm grateful that you're continuing to rise and build and create a vibrant life that feels in alignment for you, even if you've gone through some shit, even though you've gone through some hard times, you get to create a life now that feels intentional and authentic and what's right for you in this season. So keep building that. And remember, please remember, you are so worthy of living your most vibrant life. And I will see you next time. Yes, I am celebrating you, sister, because you just finished another episode of the Phoenix Perspective Podcast. I'm so grateful that we got to spend this time together today. It's been amazing. If something in this episode helped you feel seen, gave you a new perspective, or reminded you that you are not alone, please follow the show and share it with another woman who may need to hear it too. And until next episode, remember, you are so worthy of living a vibrant life. I will see you next time.